Welcome, everybody, to the Old Gold Show. With you, as always, I'm your co-host over at Hammer and Rails, Andrew Ledman.
And I'm Casey. Don't look at my face. There's things going on, Bartley.
Well, Casey got in a fist
Yeah,
fight, but as you can see,
that's
if
right.
you're watching on YouTube, we've got a third guest with us today. It is Carter Elliott from Sleepers Media. He's also over at Spartans Illustrated as part of the Rivals Network. So welcome, Carter. Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing good. Thank you guys for having me.
So Carter, a Michigan State guy, obviously he's got a Michigan State shirt on. It looks like a Michigan State hat, although I can't be 100% sure he's wearing it backwards, so we'll see. Maybe he'll turn it around on us in the second half. But figured today we're going to talk about the Big Ten as it stands right now. Then we're going to take our break and look at the game coming up against Michigan State. So things pretty well settled at the top of the conference right now. Purdue just needs one of either an Illinois loss or a Purdue win over their next three games to clinch at least a share of the Big Ten title. Casey, how are you feeling? You feeling pretty smug with your multiple game prediction for Purdue winning the conference now?
I am. I do believe the Illinois win will push Purdue to 3, right?
Yeah, yes.
Mm.
If assuming Illinois does not win or lose either of their two games before and Purdue wins on Saturday against Michigan State, yes, it would push Purdue to a 3-game lead in the conference should Purdue beat Illinois on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I would be a little more worried if Illinois wasn't the only team that collapses even more than Purdue late in a game in tough situations. So,
yeah, their offense has not, or their defense has not been good of late. I mean, I still can't get over that Penn State loss.
yeah, Kurt, what makes what is there like a surgery, an operation where the clutch gene just gets like pulled out of you and they replace it with like Walmart parts?
Yeah, I wish there was because I could use some of that for my team most certainly as we have figured out a way to crumble down the stretch ourselves as of late. But it's so weird to me watching the Illinois basketball team because when you do the whole game where you're like, look at this team on paper, like, why is this team bad defensively? Every single position is over 6'4". Damascus slow-footed, but outside of that, like Terrence Shannon's a high-level athlete.
Yeah.
Coleman Hawkins is a good like help side defender, not necessarily like a one-on-one guy, but like he can be a guy who can be switchable. Ty Rodgers is a 6'4" point guard. He's pesky. And then Gary is also kind of like a Swiss Army knife type of defender guy. And I look at that team and I'm like, okay, they don't have to be Houston, but can they just be like a middle of the pack, like defensive team? And they just really don't have any interest in it, which I have this theory with Illinois this year where it's just you just don't look at the defense whatsoever. You just hope they score 90. If they score 90, they might win. If they don't, then Penn State scores 90 and they lose the basketball game. Like that's kind of just what Illinois basketball is.
Yeah.
Also, don't look at the clock.
Don't look at the clock.
It is, I think, lack of effort or lack of maybe caring about the defensive end is certainly something to it. I mean, you see it at Purdue. Matt Painter says it all the time. You know, you can kind of coast a little bit on offense. You can ride on your skill. You can ride on your natural talent, your ability. But on defense, it's all about working. It's all about putting in the effort and knowing that you've got to be locked in on each and every possession. And if you don't have that, you can just get blown by. You can give up an easy basket, and then suddenly, you know, it's going to carry over to possession after possession. And man, we saw it in that Illinois game against Penn State, just 8 points in 35 seconds to give up a lead. Something I don't think I've ever seen in a college basketball game before. So
you know what it is? It's like when you go to a restaurant and you look on the menu and you're like, oh, that's weird. They have grits. And then you're like you're up north in the country and you shouldn't trust them because it's false grits.
Okay, I was like,
It's not
no
real.
idea.
Illinois looks like they should have grit. Because just like Carter said, you look at them, you're like, those are tough guys. They're physical, they're strong, they're long, but like it doesn't actually manifest itself at the end. It's just like, we can play a certain way the whole 40 minutes and it'll be fine.
I had no idea.
I was
no
gonna
idea
say
where you're going with that grits.
It's weird too how like they all are okay with it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like you think about we'll go back since we're doing this Purdue thing, we'll go back to a Purdue example. If a player gets blown by or something, I feel like everyone on the team is looking at that player like, what are you doing? like, come on, that's not our defensive principles. That's not what you're supposed to be doing. Before even the coaching staff probably gets their 2 cents in, like, what are you guys doing?
Right.
To me, on Illinois, sometimes it looks like a guy gets blown by, and they're like, okay. I mean, yeah, I'm probably gonna get blown by too, but like, let's get it out the net. Let's go score. Like that's kind of the mentality.
That's fair. It is interesting how they're kind of like the opposites of each other, because Purdue, I think they think about it too much at the end. They might care a little too much, get a little too clammy up, and yeah, Illinois not overly concerned.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and then going down from the top two, Purdue and Illinois, I don't think anybody would have predicted this. You could have given people 100 guesses. They would not have said at this point in the season, number 3 is going to be Northwestern, number 4 going to be Nebraska. Wisconsin is still tied, but man, they are falling like a rock. They have just looked very bad. The loss last night to IU, they came back in that game, but just could not find a way to win it. Someone, pulled the fire alarm, or there was smoke in an elevator, depending on where you read. But I mean, how surprising have Northwestern and Nebraska been to you, Carter? I mean, where would you have put them at the beginning of the year versus where they are now?
Well, like for Northwestern, for starters, I mean, as long as you have Boo Buie on the court,
Yeah.
I never doubt that team. I know, at least for me personally, I was kind of on the end of they're not going to fall off like people think they're going to fall off. I think they're going to be okay as long as you can get pieces around them. And look, credit to Chris Collins and Coach Hoiberg for both Nebraska and Northwestern. I think they did a fantastic job in the transfer portal. Northwestern loses Audige, and they go out and get Langborg, and I think he has just fit perfectly in that system. When they had him, Tyberry, Bowie, and then they had Barnheiser at the 4, who's just kind of like this utility guy who's taking a step as well. They just had a certain system and style that was just working, and it's a shame that Tyberry's out for the season, because they were just. It seemed like they were on the up and up, and they were doing so good. And you take away that home loss to Chicago State, which I still can't I really still can't fathom. They would be feeling so good about themselves, and I think they did a good job. And then you look to Nebraska as well. Like they lose Greasel last year, they lose Walker. They go out and get Rink Mass, who's been one of the better bigs in the conference. They get Bryce Williams. Obviously, Kisei Tominaga is the ultimate heat check player. If he sees that first one go in, you can mark him up for 25. They did a great job in the transfer portal and coaching, and I did not see it coming to like this level. Like I obviously didn't see. I thought like if Nebraska found their way into the top 6, like something crazy was happening. Even Northwestern too. But yeah, they've had great seasons. I think it's more so I'm looking at the other teams though who are having bad seasons for allowing, and I feel bad saying that, but yes, we're allowing those teams to be in that position because I think other teams that are typically we thought should be higher on that list are not there right now.
Yeah, sounds like you're kind of in the Casey camp as he's been all season. That the Big Ten this year is it's not a good basketball league. It's very bad. Purdue obviously very good. Illinois has looked good at times. Wisconsin has looked good at times, but they've not been consistent like Purdue has been consistent. Granted, 3 conference losses, all on the road, but hey, it's going to happen. So Casey, do you feel the same way about Northwestern and Nebraska, that it's not so much about them? They've got talented players, but the conference as a whole has just not lived up to what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, Carter nailed it. I think with Northwestern, pre-Tyberry injury, they could have the best guards in any game, almost in the entire country, let alone the Big Ten, which is starved for shot making and playmaking. So that's not a fluke. Northwestern is a well put together, screaming for a real big Northwestern team, but they're really good. Those guards are awesome. Nebraska definitely helps a little more by being in the Big Ten, because Tominaga, in theory, should be picked apart by teams, but there's a handful of guards that are even problems in the Big Ten. So he gets to do Tominaga stuff and then not pay for it at the other end. And that's a sign. I mean, Hoiberg has always been good at the transfer portal. So this is his ideal world of college basketball. You've got, we'll talk about Tom Izzo later, but you got him throwing a fit. Hoiberg's just in heaven. He's like, let me bring as many 6th-year guys from South Dakota as I can. That's how I want to build a program.
Yeah. I think just as surprising as those two near the top of the Big Ten has been what's been going on at the bottom of the Big Ten right now. I mean, the bottom four, I'll go bottom five just because this is a Purdue podcast. Bottom five of the Big Ten right now: IU, Maryland, Rutgers, Ohio State, and dead last with just a 3-14 conference record is Michigan. Now, I know things have been weird at Michigan with Juwan Howard and his health issues, and then animosity with the strength coach apparently, and maybe some fights going on and everything else. But I could 3-14 in the conference from Michigan, a team that was such a titan under John Beilein, is just, it's crazy to me. It's got to be one of the biggest disappointments from one coach to the next that I can remember.
Yeah, I mean the fall off too. If you think about it, it's not even just the Beeline fall off because a lot of people do forget, and I'm one of that actually forgets a lot. Like Jawan had 2 good years, like post B. 2 years ago, I believe Juwan Howard was Big Ten Coach of the Year, if I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, and it was either 2 or 3 years ago they were in the Elite Eight.
Yeah, like they just fallen off. But the thing about Jawan is, and part of it is his fault. Don't get me wrong, but to give him a little bit of leeway, the things that Michigan administration wise, like you got to be able to recruit a certain type of player and get certain type of kids. Like Jawan is making the mistake of recruiting kids that can't get into school. Like you put all these resources into Terrence Shannon Jr. and you can't get him into school. You put all these resources into Caleb Love. Who knows what that would even look like at Michigan this year? He would have probably set the record for most field goal attempts in a season. But like, you can't get him into school. You spend all this time trying to get him, and then everything from there just unravels. You have the incident with the coach. You have the incident with Juwan's health, which is unfortunate in itself, and that just sets him back. And they're doing all these odd things. They're letting Phil Martelli coach on the road at Penn State.
So weird.
And then you suspend Doug for 6 games, but it's only away games. It's just been a tumultuous year for them.
He's back on the road. He's back on the road. They announced it. He's done everything they asked of him, and he can now travel with the team.
Just the weirdest thing I've ever seen in college basketball suspension wise. I'll probably use it as an example 20 years from now when people talk about like the weirdest suspensions you've ever seen. But yeah, they just. When it rains, it pours for them, and it just fell apart. And then, you get to it. This team is so Doug dependent. Doug also hasn't played as well as he did early on in the season. I mean, that game earlier at Madison Square Garden against St. John's, I was like, oh my God, this is one of the more electrifying point guards in the country. He hasn't sustained that play. He's been suspended. That's affecting everybody else. And then on top of it, like things can't get worse. Now Olivier Nkamhoua broke his wrist and is done for the year. So it's like this team is just in shambles.
Yeah. I want to ask you, because I think I've asked Casey this a time or two. When pretend you're the AD at Michigan, you got Juwan Howard, obviously a Michigan legend, but he's terribly underperformed. Do you think that's going to play into giving him a longer leash or more years rather than letting him go? Say if this was just, random coach off the street?
Yeah, I do think it gives a little bit of leeway, to be honest with you. And that might just be a personal thing for me. But like if someone like Juwan does something for the university, and granted, there's been tension with them in the Fab Five, mainly a lot of tension with him, particularly. But I relate it to Indiana. Like they're not gonna fire Mike Woodson. Like he would have to do something astronomically bad, I think, for them to fire him. Like I think there's a certain level of respect that those ADs and those schools have for like quote unquote legends of the program, where it's like maybe they're like Juwan, you're not feeling too good. Maybe we do a mutual parting, but like the word firing, I just don't think happens with certain coaches. Like I'm not going to see Michigan State firing Tom Izzo,
right?
Nor do I want that. But even when the time comes, I don't know if you could fire a guy like Tom Izzo. Like that's just kind of the nature of the world to me.
Yeah, it's kind of like how Bill Belichick and the Patriots mutually agreed to part ways. You're not gonna fire him. But Casey, go ahead and jump in there.
What if we find out that the reason they evacuated the building last night was Mike Woodson has a stogie just waiting? on him at half every game.
He just has it pre-lit just in the locker room.
Oh,
Got it ready to go.
They should extend them then. That fire break really helped them out.
Yeah, that probably helped them win that game. Wisconsin was really chugging along.
That's how
So
you win a
Carter,
game.
we're kind of in the same boat right now in terms of your in-state rival who has some pretty good history, and they are just not relevant.
Yeah.
How are we supposed to handle this? Because I go back and forth between enjoying it gleefully a lot and then just like pitying and feeling sad. Because like I remember talking to Ledman when the IU Purdue game came around. I'm like, there's nothing to talk about. It's not going to be a basketball game. This thing that we all get up for every year, it's just an event. Like it might as well be, Samford coming to town.
Yeah, right. So he let me rant about being angry with IU fans in general and why Bobby Knight was terrible for about good 10-15 minutes since he didn't have anything to add. So it worked out well for us, but where do you come down on that?
To me it's like I feel joy in seeing my rival be bad. Like that's natural.
Me too.
That's how everyone should feel. Like seeing your rival down bad should give you a little bit of joy. That's naturally part of it. But there's also a part of me that's like, oh my, like, come on, guys, like, put up a fight. Like, this isn't even fun. And for me, if I'm going with like Michigan basketball fans, they usually just turn it to football. That's usually the go-to.
Right.
We beat you. We won a national championship. We don't really care about basketball. And I'm
that
like,
does make it different because like we know what it's like to root against a bad IU team because we just watch football.
Right. So they're just they usually just fall back on the, we won a national championship, we're going about football. But even in just like in a bubble,
mm-hmm.
I put a lot of the blame on the Big Ten being bad on the Michigan schools.
Right.
Like they should be better. Like we should expect Michigan State to be better. We should I have older family members that don't watch as much Michigan State. But like, if I told them that the Big Ten rankings have Northwestern and Nebraska at 3 and 4, and then Michigan State's not at 1 or 2, they'd be like, "What are you talking about? Like, what happened to the Big Ten basketball I know and love?" And I'd be like, I say the same thing. Like, there's a lot riding on certain teams to be good to make the conference good, and the Marylands, the Michigans, the Michigan States, I feel like they're letting the conference down right now.
Could you have foreseen a world where going from John Beilein to Juwan Howard would make your team less cool?
No.
Because like Beilein teams were cool.
Yeah.
They were fun to watch.
And like fun to watch and like likable guys. Like I have a real large, and I'm not even afraid to admit it, hate for Michigan football.
Right.
I respect Michigan. I used to respect Michigan basketball. Actually like some of the players. Like Trey Burke was a likable guy.
Awesome.
He was a killer. Like even if you're a rival, you recognize
5'10" dude just out there.
Yeah, like stuff. That guy was just like fun to watch. But now it's just you got to watch like the Terrace Reeds of the world. Even though if Terrace Reed leaves, I'll take him at Michigan State. Right.
Nice caveat there. Nice caveat.
Right now.
Yeah, actually that is a good point. He looks like he should be a big that opens up offenses.
Yeah, he did. I saw him. He single-handedly last year beat Michigan State at their house. He had Joey Hauser in the torture chamber for a 10-minute stretch, and they won the basketball game.
It is a wild affair. I mean, in the same way, like IU basketball should not be on I don't know what to think about IU's team last season because, like, in theory, not an abject failure, but that was also the height of Trace Jackson Davis's career, which seems criminal, especially looking back. Yeah. Like, he was so good, and he should be, and he's like so good in the way that he just like amplifies everyone else he's playing with, and like that's the best you could come up with after 18 seasons.
I got Casey. I got to stop you because you and I had a podcast for many years, and I'm pretty sure
I hated him at the time.
On Trace Jackson Davis was he can't do anything but dunk. I'm pretty sure you told me that for like 2 years.
After his sophomore season, I believe is when this was.
But at the same time, I respect it because that's your rival. That's your rival. So you gotta find angles, and I like that. But
okay, all right, I'll let it slide. So
yeah,
does anyone in the middle of the Big Ten stand out to you,
No,
either in a good way or a bad way,
no.
that we need to discuss? Because it's just a big blob in those middle teams.
I mean, no one necessarily stands out. I mentioned like the disappointment with certain teams, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Maryland in my disappointment.
Yeah.
That might be the team that made me look the most stupid this season. I for any and actually
Same
a
disease.
couple of people I think have actually gone back and clipped my preseason one that I did. I was astronomically high on Maryland. I'm talking like I was out of this world. I was like, Jameer Young's gonna be so good. Deshaun Harris Smith is a guy. Dante Scott is in like his 8th year of college basketball. Like he'll
Mhm.
shoot the ball. Julian Reese is gonna take a step down low, and they have just faltered at every single step. Deshaun Harris Smith can't dribble with his right and or shoot. They start Jordan Geronimo. Like this team just doesn't has just failed at every level. And I look to both the players in that case, and then also Kevin Willard, the coach. Like this team should not be as bad as they are. They have, I guess, played better as of late, but they couldn't have played any worse. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, they've got like the size. They've got like Illinois size, except they're all athletes. And Ledman and I were at the Maryland game last year, and it was probably the most impressive Big Ten win of
Yeah.
any team. They looked incredible.
Just
And
every position on that floor was just destroying Purdue, especially through that second half. I mean, we just sat there and we're like, "There's nothing you can do. These guys are locked in." And then we went there this season, and it was just
12
completely
people.
180 different. Yeah, there was no one there for one, and the team just couldn't shoot. They couldn't do anything on
they are
offense.
so bad at shooting the ball. Like I just felt so stupid because I watched a lot of Deshaun Harris Smith in high school, and he was never a shooter. Don't get me wrong, but like he showed improvement. He shot a little bit better on EYBL, and I was like, this guy's just a dog. Even if he can't shoot, like
Right.
he'll go to the rim and he'll be at least able to be a pressure there, but he can't dribble with his right, which is like not an exaggeration. Anytime he touches the ball with his right hand, like he just loses it. And they just haven't put it together whatsoever. And also they lose Akeem Hart to go play at Villanova for like 10 minutes a game, and it's just like he's one of those guys who I'm like, why'd you even transfer? You might as well just stayed at Maryland and played there. He would have provided some shooting at least. So yeah, tough times for everybody in the Big Ten. But the one middle of the pack Big Ten team that you always got to watch out for
Uh-oh.
is Michigan State, because we have Tyson Walker.
There we go.
That's the
There we
only
go.
reason.
And that's why he does this more than we do. That's a perfect little transition. We're going to take a break, come back, and look at Purdue's next game against the Spartans.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 as we all get ready for the best month of the year, March Madness. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use the bonus code FIELD150 and you will get $150 in free bets on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not you win that first bet. Here's the best part. All you need to do is deposit and bet $5 of your hard-earned money. This is how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD150. That's FIELD150. Deposit at least $5 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $150 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your bet. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD150 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available in one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient when I have to go cover games in Philly or New York, which happens quite a bit. When you cross state borders, you just log into your existing account and fire away. You don't have to create a new account in each state. It's easy, it's simple, and it's clean. And most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the conference tournaments and for the NCAA tournament. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boost, and my personal favorite, a nice little parlay boost here and there. So download the BetMGM app and sign up today. Big news, guys. I am thrilled to announce that we have partnered with Autograph, a company founded by the GOAT himself, Tom Brady. The Autograph fandom app gives you access to the best college hoops content, fan contests, and exclusive rewards like discounted tickets, all for doing the things that diehard fans like you already do. following your favorite team in the news and listening to podcasts just like this one. When Tom, and yes, I am calling him Tom, we're on a first name basis these days, co-founded Autograph, he had one mission in mind: change the fan experience for the better. It works like this: you get all of your college hoops content you want in one place. You get articles from your favorite writers, pods from your favorite hosts, contests from your favorite creators, all on the feeds and the sites that you already enjoy. But instead of having to go to all these different places, it all comes to you in one spot, the Autograph fandom app. But here's the best part: the more content that you consume, the higher you rank in the app. As you consider to level up in status on the app, you can unlock unique rewards curated exclusively for you. So download the free Autograph app in the App Store and use the referral code F68, that's F68, or tap in at the link in the description below or in the podcast app of your choosing to start earning points for doing something as normal as listening to this very podcast.
And we are back. So now we've got Carter here. We're going to talk about Purdue versus Michigan State. Who better to have on than a Michigan State expert? You know, you talked about Maryland kind of letting you down before the break. You were really high on them coming into the season. How high were you on this Michigan State team? And how do you feel they let you down?
How much time?
We've got time. We've got time.
How much time do you actually have? You know, the expectations coming into this season. Now I will say this: they're top 5. I thought that was a little bit lofty just because of a lot of the top 5 ranking depended on things that we did not know for sure were going to be a thing. Like I looked at it more as like a top 10 team for sure, but that was really based on the fact that we're going to have this old nucleus of guys who there's something there with those guys. Like AJ Hogarth's inconsistent, but like he has played a lot of basketball, and at worst you're going to get like 11-4 from AJ Hogarth. Like that's a lot of teams don't have point guards. They would probably take that, even though he makes me want to pull my hair out sometimes. But you had Tyson Walker. He's coming back. We're feeling really great about that. And then it was really dependent on this freshman class that we got coming in, the young guys. The young guys were going to unlock the ceiling of this team. And we have seen how that has unfolded throughout the season. Obviously, Xavier Booker has been just a trending topic amongst Michigan State fan base.
Yeah.
As he plays behind some of the interesting centers in the Big Ten, and Mike Sissoko and Carson Cooper.
Interesting that's great. If you have to describe a player as interesting, I just don't know if that's what they want to hear.
Yeah, I think that's what I'll go with. But yeah, it's just this team had so many, like, if they do this, they will be this team. And outside of Tyson Walker's play, and I guess I'll say Malik Hall as of late, even though he was inconsistent throughout the first part of the year, he's actually been pretty good in the second half of Big Ten play. Guys just have not really played to their ability. The center spot has been a 0 all season. We're playing 4-on-5 a lot of the times. And while we're yearning to have a center on this team, the coaching staff continues to play 2 centers at sometimes when we don't even have one like functional one. So it's like
that's going to be perfect for Purdue.
Yeah, it's just it's been a very, very tough season. I will say that. One of the more disappointing ones, I was actually having a conversation with some of the other college basketball guys, and they're coming to me asking for, who's your top 3 most disappointing teams of this year? And I'm like, you got to put Michigan State.
Raise your hand.
Like I'm like, hand up. That's on me. Like you got to put Michigan State at 1. I mean, top 5 team. We now find ourselves on the bubble, which is great. Once again, love it. 4 years straight on the bubble, 13 losses. This is amazing. Great time I'm having. But yeah, there's a lot of intricate things you could say about it, but this team has kind of just faltered at a lot of steps along the way.
Does Joey Hauser deserve more of the flowers than he got?
Yeah, you're talking to the leader of the Joey fan club last year. I've been carrying water for Joey Hauser back to when his first year after he transferred, when everybody was on his case and he
Mhm.
was actually saying that he was feeling worn down by the fan base from all the things he was seeing. And I was like, guys, do you realize that while this is all going on, Joey Hauser is our best rebounder. He's not knocking it down at a clip that's amazing, but like he's still shooting 32% from three. He comes back the next season. He's literally our most important player. And the loss of him just killed the spacing of the team this year. Like Tyson Walker just has zero space to operate. AJ Hogarth's not a 3-point threat. Jay Nakins has not taken a jump this year whatsoever. You might even had to make an argument that he gotten worse than he was last year. You don't have 3-point shooting at the 4 spot like you had with Joey Hauser last year with Malik Hall. And then, like I said, the center position, there's no spacing there whatsoever. There's no anything there. You can't depend on a post move, a pass catch, anything like that. So it's just tough roster construction, tough recruiting the past couple of years with the players that have come in. And you just, that class, I look back to the class of 2020 for Michigan State, and, you have the AJ Hogarths, you have the Mady Sissokos. I throw Malik Hall in that mix, even though he was a year before. All those players in their 4 years, they've lost 50 games in Michigan State in the last 4 years. Every single season, we've lost 13 games. It's
wild.
we haven't lost 13 yet, but it's coming this year. I think we're at 12. It'll soon come. That'll be here, maybe more than that. But yeah, like that's just the nature of kind of what this program and what this class has been.
That's got to be, 50 games for a class at Michigan State to lose that many. I can't imagine that's happened in recent years. Even under Izzo, under maybe the last 15 years, 20 years.
Yeah, no, it went from, and it was one of the funnest stats as being a Michigan State fan, is that every 4 years, if a senior class, every 4 years, Izzo was taking that team to a final. I think a
Final
final
Four.
four. I believe
Yeah,
it
That's
was.
wild.
It
Yeah.
was wild. It ended, I think,
wild.
like 2000. Now that I'm thinking about it, it ended a little while ago. But like, it was an awesome stat. Like,
Oh yeah.
even the Cassius Winston year, like 2019, yeah, that's like 4 or 5 years ago. But like that team made a Final Four, and to look how it has fallen from that. And honestly, that's the most frustrating thing to me, is it seems to be like this complacency with like, oh, it's okay, let's make it to the tournament. I'm not trying to make it to the tournament. Like, I'm not, like, we're talking like we're Maryland or something like that. We're talking like we're not a school that makes
shots fired at Maryland. Woo.
Yeah, oh, sorry. They made me look stupid this year, so I'm almost but like it's the consistency of losing 13 games, sneaking into the tournament. Oh, yeah, we made it to a Sweet 16 last year. Okay, we beat USC. Drew Peterson had a bad back. We beat Marquette. It's Shaka Smart in March, and Tyler Kolek had a bad thumb. Now everything's just like roses, and you get told to not complain about what's happening when you really look at the whole body of work. Michigan State isn't a basketball program, and I'm not trying to be like we're Michigan State thing, but like we're a better team, a better program than just winning or losing 13 games every season. Like that's not something we should be doing. Like I know you guys are happy because Purdue is just like running the conference, but I'm sick of it being the Purdue Invitational, and then we get to the end of the year and they win it by 3 to 5 games. Like, come on. The other Big Ten teams need to step up and show a little bit of fight here.
Yeah, I get it. When Michigan State was winning the conference, 3 years in a row there, not too long ago, it's like somebody's got to stop. We got to get up there again. We got to get back to it. So I completely understand where you're coming from. But Casey, I know you have not been sold on this Michigan State team basically the entire year. So have they failed in ways that you thought they would? Have they fallen short the way you thought they would?
Yeah, so I had 2 issues with them to start off. First of all, they put a lot of eggs in the Xavier Booker basket, and not on the court, but in theory. And I'm in the weeds here. He was an Indiana guy. I trust Matt Painter in talent, and I heard very early on he's a 5-star Booker in the state of Indiana. Painter had to recruit him. He didn't want Xavier Booker on campus. He didn't want him on the team. Like there were engine concerns with Xavier Booker. And I think those have played out, and Michigan State is like starving for a big man that could do anything. And then I thought just Joey Hauser like unlocked that offense in ways that like those guards are all really good shot makers. They're difficult shot makers. But it becomes a lot easier to make shots when you have a stretch four that you can play like Hauser. And when you don't, you're talking Tyson Walker into creating for 20 seconds again, even more than normal. And that's not sustainable, especially if you don't have bigs to grab rebounds to, protect the rim at the other end. It's just, I think there is a question of like, does Tom Izzo know how to thrive in this new college basketball? Because
that's
what he used to do is grab, like he would get high-end talent that other Big Ten programs couldn't get, bigs and guards. And now I don't know how good the high-end talent is compared to what it used to be with Overtime Elite, with G League, with just the Big Ten in general, not getting like top lottery talent. It's a hard way to sustain. And I'm not sure if flexibility is Tom Izzo's number one strength as a coach. You can confirm that or not, Carter.
That's kind of what I've mentioned a couple of times on this, and I wanted to get Carter's view. Tom Izzo, obviously a coaching legend, and as you said in the last segment, there's no way he's going to get fired from Michigan State. It's going to be like a mutual parting of ways. He'll retire, whatever it is. What is the view of the fan base right now of Tom Izzo, given, as you said, these 13 lost seasons and back-to-back years? I mean, have they soured on him at all, or is he still like deified and viewed as the guy who took you to so many Final Fours?
So I think it's a little bit split, at least in what I see. There's guys that are just whatever Izzo says, whatever Izzo does is word, it's bond. And you know what? I respect that because he's a legend. You really can't say much about it. Even with these last couple years, like I think his body of work just speaks for itself. But with that said, I will say that a lot of the fan base, and this is mainly me, I think, on this one, is looking that next season or coming up, the years coming up, there needs to be some type of change. There needs to be some type of adjustment made. And, honestly, the one thing that I said this year is that we're losing a lot after this season. So, like, if he doesn't do the things that, quote unquote, that he hates, like he hates the transfer portal. By the way, Tyson Walker, Joey Hauser, both from it infuriates me every time I hear it. Like two of the best players in the past 4 years are both from the transfer portal, but he's going to be forced to, because it's a damn shame that this team can't have a center. Like we have 30 minutes available for any center that wants to play. We're a program that has had great center play before this past 4 years. The Xavier Tillmans of the world, the Jaren Jacksons, even guys like who ended up leaving, Kenny Goins at the end of his time, like was making plays and playing well. Matt Costello, like we've had this string of good bigs, and the fall off to what we have now is just kind of not what Michigan State is. But I'm not in the fire Izzo camp. I think anybody in the fire Izzo camp is just a little bit too far for my liking, but I am monitoring things moving forward. Like next season, I'm gonna be monitoring things, and we're gonna have to add some pieces. Because if you look at it, I know this isn't a next year thing, but if you bring back just what we have on this team, we're not gonna have much. Like we might have had a bad season, but we're losing everything. Like Hogard is gone, Tyson Walker is gone, Malik Hall is gone. There's all our production right there. Is that's a lot of whatever percentage production is leaving. So, it's, to me, next year's or coming up here is going to be a Izzo, like get with the times or go out sad. So, hopefully he gets with the times.
Yeah, because that's kind of the difficult part, right? Because like as a coach, as like an in game, as like this Michigan State team last year went to overtime in the Sweet 16 against Kansas State. Mm-hmm. Like they overachieve in the tournament every year almost. I mean, they knocked off Marquette last year in the tournament. Win a game, set something up, Izzo is still God. But roster construction going forward is the answer for coaches. How do you manage the transfer portal? How do you manage getting the right guys in your system? And he's just so anti-transfer portal that it's like, is he ever going to jump to it and be like, kind of have to live in this world? This is where we're at.
Right. And he's loyal to a fault, I think, too, is what I always say, or what I've been saying about him. Like, uh, it's great that a coach is loyal to his guys. I think you want that. I think recruits want that. But at the same time, loyalty can mess you up when, loyalty doesn't put points on the board. Loyalty doesn't get stops. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Loyalty
like,
gets you fired.
yeah, loyalty can also get you fired. Like you want to ride with those guys, and Izzo kind of doubled down and was like, I'm gonna run it back. I'm gonna run it back with my vets that have lost 13 games the past 3. I'm gonna run it back with those guys. Like maybe it'll be different this time. And it wasn't. And Casey, you brought up Xavier Booker, and I was actually in the camp too, because I'm not like in the weeds like grassroots guy, but like I watch a lot of those guys,
Right.
especially Michigan State recruits or targets. And I specifically remember, I want to say it was against Ben Davis, like a Valpo guy had Xavier Booker in hell, and I was like, oh, okay, let me temper my expectations a little bit here.
Yeah.
But when I look at Michigan State center rotation, even with Xavier Booker, let's say maybe he does struggle with rebounding, strength, and things like that. He's still the best center on our roster.
Right.
He is still the best center on our roster,
Right.
and he provides spacing at the least, which will, if you're not getting any production out of him, at least you're getting people out of the way. So our undersized 6'2" guard doesn't have to drive into trees and get hammered every time.
Yep.
Like that'll at least help that. But yeah, there needs to be some adjustments going on. I against the Ohio State game, last game for Michigan State, I had to watch Carson Cooper, Madi Sissoko, Cohen Carr at the 3 lineups with AJ Hogarth at the point. That's like the worst shooting spacing lineup I've seen in a long time. And that's how you blow leads at home. So yeah.
Yeah, like why is ranked masked not a Spartan?
Casey, you don't know how much I do this every single night. I pull up Big Ten team, and I go through it. Like every single team added something to the transfer portal to up their level. And even the Michigans, although I would take Olivier Nkamhoua in a heartbeat. I would take anybody. I take Rink Mask. I take Owen Freeman. I take Ben Creaky. Like all these guys that have just been added and are playing, I would take. That's the thing that just I can't wrap my head around, is that even if you don't want to adjust, how do you not look around you and look around the landscape of college basketball and notice what's going on and say, like, I gotta get with this, or I'm gonna get left behind.
Yeah, speaking about this game that we're walking into, if Tom Izzo was a Purdue coach, would Ethan Morton be starting for Purdue this season?
Maybe. Actually, I'm not joking. He might be.
Oh man, that would anger a lot of Purdue fans. Let me just say that. And I'm an Ethan Morton defender. I think he brings a lot to the team when he's out there. But I don't want him playing. I don't want him playing 25, 30 minutes a game as he's currently playing. So going into this game, it has been a decade since Michigan State won in Mackey Arena, which is just crazy to think about. But Casey, how do you view this matchup? Where is Purdue going to find the ability to do the most damage on the offensive end?
Hey, Carter, is Izzo still guarding one-on-one in the post?
Yeah. You know what? Who knows? Probably. I was on hand last year for that Edie game. That was something.
So yeah, I think if you're Purdue, you kind of hope that Fletcher Lawyer finds the magic again that he had up in Michigan State last season. Could definitely use it. But I think we just saw with Michigan, like if a team is going to guard Edie one-on-one, this team is better at getting Edie the ball as the season has progressed, definitely better than last year. Like the reason why the Michigan game didn't worry me at all is when things got tough, Purdue knew what it needed to do to get Edie set up basket after basket. I think it was 14 for 17. Michigan State's bigs are maybe worse than Michigan's. At least,
no, they are.
Yeah,
just a fact. No, they are.
So combine that with a coach who has aggressively been one-on-one with Edie. I mean, it cost him the game up in Michigan State, which I kind of get, but I don't think you can count on going one-on-one with Edie and slamming the door and instead choosing to slam the door on everyone else in Mackey Arena. Yeah. I don't think you can slam the door on Lance Jones. Lance Jones, it might be the least affected by anything going on around him person that I've ever met or seen on a basketball court.
Yeah, he's going to take seven
Yeah,
shots regardless. 4 of them are going to be threes. He doesn't care. I'm taking them.
I don't think his stat line would change if you double teamed him, if you triple teamed him, if you hard hedged him, if you drop back on him. He's going to get 14 to 18 points. Some nights will be a little more efficient than others. And I do think that just makes this team impossible compared to what it was last year, because he's so fast. When you have someone disrupting things with speed that much while having Edey, it's why Purdue is 3 losses into the season. That and Braden Smith's like the 3rd best point guard in the country. 2nd, maybe.
Well, he's not on the Koozie list, so he's at best 11th. He's at best 11th, according to those folks. So Carter, coming into this game, is there anything? I mean, obviously Zach Edey scares everybody. He's going to play. But is there anything from a Michigan State perspective that gives you hope about this game? Hope that they can, find something to exploit, or somebody on Michigan State's been playing a little better recently that gives you hope that maybe Michigan State can find their first win in over a decade in Mackey Arena?
Well, for starters, the week off I think is massive for Michigan State, just from a straight up Tyson Walker health perspective. He's had like a nagging groin injury that's just kind of just been messing. It's obviously he has to play, or this Michigan State team is not going to even be in games. But it's definitely something. Izzo's been giving him days off of practice, which, if people don't know, Izzo doesn't give anybody days off of practice. Like you could come in with one leg and he's going to be like, get out there, at least Mike and drill or something. Like, he's not giving days off to guys. Like, that's how kind of just, broken down he is, I guess, at this point of the season, from carrying this team at 6 foot, 175, 80 pounds. Like, it's a lot for him to bear. But, in the Big Ten especially, I think it should be somewhat of a copycat league. And it's not, you do this like this team did it. Like, oh, go play what Northwestern did. They almost won. Maybe that'll work. Or go do what Nebraska did at the Nebraska game. They did the doubling of Edey. And obviously they hit shots, but that, like Casey said, that works on the road. These guys, like the Purdue guys, are gonna shoot 40% from 3 in Mackey. Like, they just are. Somehow they're gonna find a way. But to me personally, I'd rather have that. You got to double Zach Edey. I don't care. If Lance Jones busts a bunch of threes, so be it. But I'm not letting the National Player of the Year put 40 on my head. And I'm going to find a way. And then offensively, I do think there are some things that Michigan State could try. But a lot of those things to me are dependent on spacing. And I know you guys are going to giggle at this right here.
Oh,
they need to start. They need to start Xavier Booker again. They need to start him again. I know that is the rudest thing to do to the kid and put him up against Zach Edey. But
in Mackey,
that is the rudest thing you can do to him. But with that said, if I get a Tyson Walker, Xavier Booker pick and roll, you at least got to respect Xavier Booker popping out, and Tyson Walker can have a little bit of space to operate. Maybe, he hits that mid range and guys close in on him a little bit. You could pop back out to Booker. Maybe he hits a 3 or 2. Jaden Akins has been on an unbelievable cold streak as of late, but maybe he knocks down a couple shots. That's really your only chance, is you got to knock down shots at an extremely high clip. And that only gives you a chance to win the game, because Minnesota knocked it down at an extremely high clip in that basketball game. They still ended up losing. Northwestern was banging shots left and right.
Yeah.
They lost. So if you want to have a chance, you're going to have to knock down shots. So I think spacing and pick and rolls and, just maybe taking advantage of Edey a little bit on that drop coverage and maybe getting to that mid range. And look, Edey's really good at that. Even like he doesn't get enough credit for the defense that he does play. You don't go to the rim on him because it never ends well. But if anything, at least make him work on the defensive end too. Maybe for once in his 4 years, he'll get tired. It's literally so unfair.
It's ridiculous.
It's so unfair to me that dude is that big, that skilled, and then on top of that doesn't get tired.
It's unnatural.
Watched him play 43 minutes
and then hits free throws too. It's like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah. I don't think he gets enough credit for his ability to stay in shape and play, as Casey said, 43 minutes in one game this year, but also to continue throughout a game and hit the free throws, because you're 7'4". You don't find 7'4" guys who are hitting free throws like that and that are able to go up and down, for 40 plus minutes.
Unfair.
It's wild.
If I'm Izzo, I am making this game as slow as possible. And I think you're right, Carter. Like Booker, you have to have some zest at the 5. Like you've got to do something, but you have to double if you're doing that. Even though Booker's done a decent job at not fouling for a freshman. I think he's at like 5 fouls per 40. Not bad. That's going to multiply.
He's in the wrong spot a lot.
Yeah, it's easy to not foul when you're not.
It's easy to be in the right spot with Edey because you know where he's going to be. He's not moving around a ton.
True.
But if I'm Izzo, AJ Hoggard, you are posting up to start every possession against Fletcher Lawyer. ISO Lawyer, Hoggard, like he's a big boy for a guard. Granted, does that bring in some problems that Hoggard has to make decisions every play? Probably, but that will send Purdue's defense into some kind of emergency at least. But I am excited to see Tyson Walker come to Mackey one more time.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun to watch for sure. It's a shame that we have rewarded him with no spacing and a center that can't provide anything offensively or defensively. Like it's a lot of what ifs for me with that. But this is gonna take, and this isn't even like a how do we win this game. This is a like get me to the last 4 minutes, and I'm like within a shooting chance. It's gonna take a nuclear Tyson Walker game, and that's how it is. And that's how I think all teams need to operate. Like that's one thing I think Northwestern does really well against Purdue, that they get to that last 4 minutes. Even if they get down like 10 early on or they have a lead, they just get to the last 4 minutes and you're within striking distance. And then they just give it to Boo Boo and they're like, go. Like if you can get me to the last 4 minutes of this game and somehow, some way we're within striking distance, give it to Tyson Walker and let's see what happens. It might end bad, probably will end bad, but let's see what happens.
Carter, let me get your opinion on this. I think this is kind of my dissertation on this Purdue. I've been in person, covered every game for the last 2 seasons. Teams that beat Purdue do not treat games against Purdue like regular basketball games. You can't. The old fundamentals, everything you use against every other team, you blow them out the window. You have to play a Purdue specific thing. And I think that's why really good teams struggle against Purdue, because they play their game that has worked continuously. But there's a lot of ego when it's Fairleigh Dickinson coming in, Northwestern. They're like, no, we have to do crazy stuff that we shouldn't do every night, but we have to play, like you said, on those margins. And we just have to hope to have an out-of-world experience doing these difficult things, triple teaming in the post like Rutgers or Nebraska, the other red team. You just can't, I know, you just can't treat Purdue like a normal game. You can't do what you normally do to knock them off.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. Like you have a national player of the year who's a behemoth of a human being surrounded by a bunch of 40% 3-point shooters. You gotta, what's the phrase I use? You gotta zig when other teams zag.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta do something different. You gotta think outside the box a little bit. That's why it works so well for teams like, I guess, Northwestern, is because they have Boo Booey, who's just like this creative shot making like guard, and then you surround them with other guys that can knock down shots and things like that. But that's why I say you need like the spacing, you need the Xavier Booker spacing. You need guys to knock down shots, and that's how you maybe find your way into the game. And look, I hate that I'm coming into this game with zero faith, but I kind of do have zero faith, to be honest with you. And that's just the nature of what it is. As a Michigan State fan, I'm looking to go like 2-1 in these games. So, we got Northwestern after this senior night at home against the Spartan killer Boo Booey. That'll be amazing. Can't wait for that. And then we got to go to IU to play Indiana, which is like, it's Assembly Hall, never an easy place to win. So it's a stretch of games coming out here. It's going to take a damn near perfect performance to beat beat this team in Mackey. Who's the last team to beat them? Rutgers last season? Was that the last team?
Yeah.
That's
Right.
crazy. That's crazy. Y'all let Paul Mulcahy walk in there and get a win in Mackey. And I know the students weren't there. That's still crazy.
No,
Yeah,
so
he
I
destroyed
don't
him,
think
too.
the student thing is an issue at all, because I believe last year a no student game set the decibel record for Purdue. Like, there's
It did.
not a better non-student crowd in the country. But that Rutgers team last year, I mean, you joke about Mulcahy, but like the combination of him, McConnell, Mag, like that's the exact team that gives Purdue problems. Like, let's be 6'8" everywhere.
Yeah.
And Michigan State offers almost none of that. Like, your solution to Booker makes sense. Edie's going to have 30 rebounds if Booker plays a lot of this game. Like, this is not the Izzo team of old where like rebounding is a strength. I think they're like 167 in the country at giving up offensive rebounds. And, you know, Purdue's going to play Trey Kaufman-Renn right next to Edie for good portions of the game. Like, there's no good answer on this Michigan State roster, which is sad, because like I think Izzo as a coach, like, this is that kind of game he should be good for. But when your options are,
I feel like this will be a Gillis game more than a TKR game, though. Do you think TKR?
They're all Gillis games.
I'm saying, do you
That's
think
right, Casey.
I don't think TKR can check Malik Hall. That's kind of a tough matchup for him.
Oh yeah, I think Gillis is the better matchup personally.
I don't watch as much Michigan State as you do, but it seems like Malik Hall thrives on being a bully inside. Like, that kind of unjams your offense a lot.
So it's honestly not even a bully inside. It's just like the toughest fadeaway mid-range twos that you can imagine.
Right.
And he does that.
It's hard to make a living on that kind of shot.
So
it makes me furious, even though it's so hard to watch.
Gillis is kind of a low-key, not good post defender. Like 2 games ago,
he's big and strong though, and you know
he's big and strong, but like he doesn't use it inside. He uses it not to move, but like it was like 2 games ago where someone pump faked, so he went left towards the shot, and then the guy just slowly pivoted as Gillis is on the other side of the hoop and gave up a layup.
Yeah, Malik Hall has this thing, and every bucket he gets is tough, where he'll like catch it on the wing, and it'll be like 7 to 8 dribbles of maybe not going anywhere, but like that last 2 to 3 dribbles will be like the spin baseline, like tough fadeaway too. Like, he just sometimes it's like he's out there playing one-on-one, like with the other guy on the team, and I could see TKR maybe having a little bit of trouble with that. I think Gillis might be at least a little bit more fleet of foot to be with like guys like.
I think I agree with that. One last question, and it's for Casey, and then we'll see if anybody disagrees. How does Purdue slow down Michigan State? I mean, we know they're got one big guy we need to slow down. Who's going to be on him? Who's going to do the best job slowing him down? Do you think it's Gillis? Do you think it's TKR? I mean, what is Painter going to do?
Wait, so who are we worried about slowing down?
Who have we been talking about from Michigan State this whole time?
What? We're supposed to pretend like he's the issue.
I
don't think Malik Hall is the concern. Tyson Walker's the concern.
Hey, have you seen Malik Hall's stats like the last second half of Big Ten play?
I just can't imagine he's going to be more efficient than Zach Edey inside.
Oh, he's not.
Well, no. I mean, I don't think anybody's saying that. But
so who do I think? I mean, it's going to be the same rotation it always is. It'll be a little bit of TKR early. It'll be less TKR late. Gillis will guard him. Purdue's going to send a double right away. They're going to try to get the ball out of Hall's hands, because Purdue doubles constantly in the post all the time, especially when it's a small guy.
Who you think would be the double? Are they sending it?
Whoever's around, like,
depending on who the other Michigan State players are.
Right. I don't think you ever want to leave Tyson Walker for sure.
Right. You can double off Hogard.
Right.
You can double off.
They like to send big to big, so they'll send Edey.
Madi Sissoko's out there. You can double off him.
So yeah, I think it'll be a big to big and try to get it out of Hall's hands. Carter said it earlier. If this is a game, it's because, you know, Tyson Walker's doing it to Purdue again.
Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. I mean, when these two teams get together, it's always going to be fun. You know, Michigan State may have not produced like we would have expected.
Hold on, Lemon. So like Carter is the originator of the Lance Jones takes. I think even before we had fully formed opinions on Lance Jones, Carter has, in your fairness, you have come off it feels like you have a little more faith in Lance Jones than you had before.
Oh yeah, I definitely. I feel like I've done a good job of
Yeah.
apologizing to Lance Jones. But in my defense, I do want to say this. It was never to me that Lance Jones was like bad
Right.
or like Lance Jones. It was the like aura around Lance Jones that like it seemed to be in the early in the season. I'm like, guys, we got Braden Smith,
Mhm.
Zach Edey, and at the time I was like, we got Fletch. Like Fletch is the third guy.
Yeah.
Like, why are we so worried
Yeah.
about Lance Jones? And I have come along on him a lot, but I will put this little bookmark in this. He's so exciting because he doesn't care, and that's what makes him good. Like, he does not care about anything surrounding basketball games. He just cares about like actually playing, and that can be great. I also see a world where like we get to a point where Lance Jones does something to like, he gets in that Lance mode, like
Mhm.
awful shots.
Yeah.
He's just way too sped up, and things like that. But also it's not going to affect you because it's Lance Jones. Like Lance Jones is the third or fourth guy. Like you still have Braden, you still have Zach Edey. But yeah, I definitely come around on Lance Jones, and he's done a great job too. I have like this theory on guys that transfer that get more than 1 year, that in that second year, they're really good. Like Tyson Walker in his
Yep.
second year was astronomically better than he was that first year at Michigan State. Lance Jones seems to have taken that step kind of like in the middle of the season. Like
Yep.
towards the end of non-conference in the Big Ten play, he's getting more comfortable. He's fitting right in. And also like I think Purdue fans would kill for him. I don't think
Yeah,
there's
I think
anything that
so.
he can do wrong. So like
Yeah.
it's the perfect scenario for him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
To
I
your
think
point, four of his first 5 games, offensive rating of under 100. He is a chaos agent that was uncomfortable and didn't know where to be to start. And a lot of people will slow their way into that. Like you said, that's not Lance Jones.
Yeah, no, nothing
Uh,
slow. Nothing
Yeah.
but
slow.
since then, he's had 3 games under 100, and a whole lot of consistency is starting to come production wise. And I think everything you said is exactly right. Caveated with a team that is so consistent that I think Purdue needed that chaos agent. When they got to Fairleigh Dickinson, they didn't have anyone on their team that knew what to do when they got on the mat. Like some people, when they get hit on the ground, they're just like discombobulated, don't know where we are. Lance Jones just says, you get up and go that way again, real
Right.
hard. And I think that is like, if we look back and this Purdue team does what they're capable of, like Matt Painter going out and finding Lance Jones, like this is the guy he settled on. And it's like, bravo, because it was everything Purdue needed out of some small
yeah,
guard from Southern
and
Illinois.
I think to both of the points that have been made here, he is an agent of chaos and he gives you a lot, but he can have games where you're like, why are you taking that shot? And in that way, I think he reminds a lot of Purdue fans of Carson Edwards. Not in that they're the exact same type of player. They can be very different players. But Carson Edwards, his final year at Purdue, as the regular season came to a close, he
Was
played really
terrible.
poorly. I mean, he played
Terrible.
bad. And then NCAA tournament time, and he just went off in one of the best NCAA tournaments anybody's ever had.
Mhm.
And so we know as Purdue fans what that kind of player can give you. He can, you can watch him and be like, why is this guy playing? That's like 4 games in a row he's been terrible, but then he can just go off and he can save you time after time after time. So I completely agree. That's the kind of player Lance Jones is. And I agree with Casey. Maybe Purdue needed somebody like that. Maybe they needed a little pinch of something on top to make everything go off.
Yeah, I can see that. I got one last little question for you guys. I know I'm not
Okay.
I know I'm not the question person on here, but I do have a question that
Take
I need answered. Are you guys comfortable with Lance Jones being the guy that is like taking the shots to tie the games or win
Yes.
basketball games?
Yes.
100%.
Like you're good.
He's knocked down. He's like,
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the numbers yet, but
Mhm.
like it feels like he's made every one.
Right.
He hit the one against Ohio State most recently to
Yeah.
tie
Hit
the
2
game.
against Ohio State.
Right. Or even and I think actually Gillis hit the one against Michigan that kind of put it like way out of reach.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I've gone back and forth with my co-host Greg about that because we're like, on paper, I would love for like Braden to be the guy taking that
Mhm.
shot because obviously, but or in a perfect world, it would have been Fletch, but he's just been
Yeah.
struggling so much
Yeah.
as of late.
Yeah.
So
I would
yeah,
love to live in that world.
I wanted to get your temperature gauge check on that, like Lance Jones being the guy that when you need a shot is that.
I think for me, one reason I land on an immediate yes is just his confidence. So much of what you do on the court is confidence. And we've seen that as a knock on a guy like Fletcher Lawyer. He doesn't look comfortable out there. He's not taking shots we think he should take for whatever reason. He's only hit 2 threes, I think, in the month of February. And then you look at a guy like Lance Jones, sure, he can have a game where he goes 0 for 5, but he doesn't care. Every shot he takes is confident. He believes he's hitting every shot. And then the next game, he might go 3 for 4 from deep. So I want that kind of like memory of a goldfish, like behind Casey there on that poster. You missed one. I don't care. Don't think about it. I need you to, you're out there to shoot the ball. I need you to do it again.
Even past all that, like he's going to be the most open because he's the quickest to get to an open spot.
That's true too.
So give me the guy that's going to be there. Like he does a really good job of always getting set when he shoots off ball. And I think that's because he has enough time to, Lawyer doesn't quite get the same clearance when you draw up something for him. So yeah, I like that. I like a guy who's just that blitzing fast and just fearless. So yeah, if it's coming down to a 3 anyway, like he's going to get it off. So
yeah. So there you go. Well, Carter, thanks so much for joining us. A lot of Michigan State news here. Going to look forward to a game on Saturday between these two. We don't know what Purdue will be playing for. Maybe a share of the conference title, maybe a solo conference title. We'll see depending on Illinois, but thanks so much for joining